Hey everyone, this is your Ronin Dave, and here I am, pretty much in the same place I was 5 years ago when the great Tohoku earthquake hit in March 11th of 2011. Can't believe it's been 5 years. In some ways it seems it wasn't that long ago, and in other ways it seems like it was like a long, long time ago in a completely different time period. It was very weird living through that whole experience and other things that I was going through at that time. That whole year of 2011 is just, I don't know, it's very strange when I recall it. But I remember that day. It was on a Friday, same day as the 5th anniversary, and it was around 2:30, 2:46 I think is the exact time, and I was on my day off, so I slept in until about, I don't know, 12, and I was just sitting in bed working on my computer, working on a festival blog on Blogspot, which actually I've never gone back to since then. Just haven't mustered the energy or the desire to go back to that. I've just kind of left that sitting there. But anyway, so I was going through my own personal issues at that time. Around the time of my birthday, I'd learned that my father only had a few weeks to live because of skin cancer, so I was kind of in a depressed mood at that time and making plans to go home. And while I was there on my computer, that's when the earthquake hit. At first I thought, it's not so bad. I thought, oh, that's a nice little shaker. Then books started flying off my shelf, and I thought, well, that's the first time I've seen that. And then the thought went through my head, as it does anyone in Tokyo, is this the fabled big one that we've been long overdue for? I jumped up, ran to my bathroom, jumped in my bathtub thinking, well, the bathtub is pretty sturdy, and if the house collapsed, I'm on the 3rd floor, by the way, maybe I'd be protected by the bathtub. But then I realized my bathtub is just a piece of plastic. I would have probably just been killed in that thing, so I jumped out of that, made for the door. Then I remembered I was only in my boxers, so I put on my pants, put on my shoes, and then ran down the stairs outside. The whole time, all of this is going. The earthquake is still going the whole time. I don't know if it was one continuous quake or two quakes on top of each other. I have no idea. But when I got outside, I saw these two old ladies hugging each other and crying, and that's when that really made me scared, because I know that these ladies had seen a lot of earthquakes, and that for them to be crying like that told me that this was a serious one. And I just remember walking around outside, ran into a friend of mine who lived nearby, and while we were there, another big quake hit, and I just remember this metal cage covering the store just vibrating heavily, and we were on the ground at the time, and we could still feel how powerful that was. And yeah, it was just whew. But that was and then later we found out where the epicenter was, which was in Tohoku, and then later we found out about the tsunamis, and most of us, I would say, counted our blessings and realized that we had been very fortunate, and so most of our thoughts were with the people in Tohoku. I think like the final death toll was close to 20,000. Of that, there's still like maybe 3,000 that were never found. It was very devastating. Then after that, of course, as most people know, you had the whole Fukushima nuclear plant issue. The month I stayed in Japan for about a month before I went home to attend my father's funeral, and that month was a very dark period. The earthquake was bad enough, but that following month was just because we were living in the shadow of fear every day that either one, that the nuclear power plant would go off, go Chernobyl on us and we'd all have to flee Tokyo. Or two, that there would be another big, huge earthquake, and that the Tokyo or Kanto earthquake would be set off, and we would be in deep trouble. Every single day for that month, we had aftershocks. It was shaking so much that when I went home after a month, I think like for almost 2 weeks, I kept waking up feeling phantom shakes from all that. And some of those aftershocks, I'd always said before March 11th, 2011, that was the biggest earthquake I'd ever experienced in Japan. But a lot of those aftershocks were bigger than any of the other ones that I'd experienced prior to March 11th. And if it wasn't for March 11th, a number of those aftershocks would also have been remembered. People would be talking about them, but it's just that March 11th was much larger. But they were, I remember one woke me up at night, and I was wearing my jeans. I went to bed in my clothes just for this. I ran out of bed and down the stairs because I thought, we were going to get another massive quake. But that whole month was just, I didn't get a lot of sleep. I was trying to scour the news sites about Fukushima. And there was such a big problem. In Japan, they were underreporting the seriousness of the situation, which was understandable because they didn't want people to panic, even though we already had panic in Japan. Like a lot of the supermarkets, convenience stores, they were out of water and bread, milk, things like that, because people had gone panic shopping. So I can understand why the Japanese media was kind of underreporting the Fukushima thing. But the American media, my media, they were over-sensationalizing the whole thing, and made it sound like that people were glowing in Tokyo, and made it sound like this Fukushima plant was much, much closer in Tokyo than it actually was. So I remember my parents calling me up and worried that I was going to be irradiated or something like that. And again, this is when my father was still alive, and I was really angry with my media for troubling him during all this, with all this paranoid fear and just going for ratings. The U.S. media during all that was just horrible. CNN wasn't that great, and Fox was just the worst. They're the ones that came up with the Shibuya Eggman nuclear power plant in the middle of Tokyo. Eggman actually is a disco. I actually been there before. So I had joked that, the only thing we were in danger from there was maybe disco rays. But it was just ridiculous. And as I said, that whole month, living in fear of Fukushima and all those aftershocks. Yeah. And I would just remember, everyone was very solemn during that whole month, or I should say solemn and on edge. Yeah, it's like the earthquake. I think the earthquake was terrible, but that month was just living through that. And I'm glad I kind of did stay. A lot of foreigners fled Japan, and those of us who kind of stayed, some people kind of derisively called them flyjin, from the word gaijin. And those of us that stayed, we were like, we're going to stick it out. The only reason I left was, for family reasons. It was, a dark period. But, meeting people, talking to people during that time did help out a lot. When I got back, the Chernobyl, the Fukushima thing was still an issue for a long time, but it wasn't as worrying. We had I think we had rolling blackouts during the summer in some areas of Tokyo. As I said again, Tokyo came off. We were fine. We were just shook up, literally and figuratively. most of our, like I said, most of our concern was about Tohoku. Especially, I felt I've been to Tohoku before that and after that. I've been to Tohoku many, many, many times, and so I know that area pretty well. And that year, I went up to Ishinomaki in the Miyagi area to see like the devastation. That was kind of an eye-opener there. And then I went to Sendai for their Tanabata festival. They still had their Tanabata festival that year, despite the earthquake. One of these days I'll get around to posting that on YouTube. Sorry. I remember they had Geisha and Maiko from Kyoto up there doing like a special dance and tea ceremony in honor of the earthquake that year. But yeah, so now 5 years have gone by. Yeah, the Fukushima thing, that's still an ongoing source of problem. Yeah, as I said, it's hard to believe it's been 5 years, and yeah, as I said, that year was just such a very bad year in many ways. Like when I got home, like 2 days after my father's funeral, the 4 tornadoes tore across the south, killed a number of people. I was like, I couldn't, I'd jump out of earthquakes and radiation and straight into tornadoes. I couldn't get a break. But, Japan, myself, and many people, we have, I guess we've come through it. Definitely changed. Yeah, I'm definitely not the same person I was 5 years ago. I think many people who have gone through those kind of tragedies, they can't stay the same. They just deal with it and get on with their life and just enjoy, life as they can. So, yeah, it's been an interesting 5 years, an interesting experience to go through. Not one I would ever want to go through again, and yeah. Anyway, my heart goes out to all those people who suffered in Tohoku. Let's just hope there's a better future. Peace. See you.